Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Sound good?
Yes, sir! I know who I am!
Did IQs just drop shot?
That could have been.
I have a plan.
I like this shit.
You know, it's exciting.
Dance off, bro.
It is your
Me and you.
destiny.
Welcome to the Atlantic Screen Connection podcast.
Let the games begin.
Hello and welcome to the Atlantic Screen Connection next segment for this week. Obviously, I'm Jason. We're not going to be changing the host. And Lee, how you doing, sir?
I'm Lee. Yep, that's how we say things.
That's the way we say things.
God, it's so relaxed. It's so new.
Yeah, exactly. We don't even know how we're starting. We're actually accompanied this week by Hermione Flavia from Wildfire Reviews and Craven Wild. Hello, Hermione. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Excellent. All right, so just so that everyone understands what the hell we're doing now by introducing ourselves in a weird way, adding next to the name. I'm still confused about how we're going to be doing this, but we're going to have fun. What we're doing this week, essentially, is that Lee and I decided to expand the What Did You Watch This Week segment into its own show. And the reason for that is we realized just how long our show was getting because of the analysis and whatnot, so we decided to go a little lighter on this type of segment, bring people on that we really like, and just talk about films and play with the format a little bit. So if it sounds a little sketchy this week...
It's because it is.
It's because it is, yeah. This is all planned. And so what we want, basically, is the segments for the next segment are going to be split up as such. We're going to usually talk about maybe 5-10 minutes, depending on what we have. Updates, news, what basically, if we watch trailers, if we have new reviews that we did for the sites, obviously none for me because that's the way that is. And we basically are going to be moving on to a segment that I really like, which is film quotes read by Tweens, where I get my daughters to read film quotes in a funny way. So it's going to be funny. We're going to be, I want to start advertising a little bit more of the podcasts that I interact with, people that I interact with on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. I don't know how to use it yet, but some people are using that to promote their stuff, so it's kind of funny.
He's a social media mogul, so I mean, we're just giving him that platform because I absolutely do not do any of this.
A lot of this stuff is interesting to me. I like the interaction with the people. I'm discovering new people. I'm trying to get a little bit more in contact. There was Daniel Shubat from Get Real Movies, and because Mike from War Machine vs. Warhorse was in Ireland on, I don't know, I think he was on vacation essentially.
What?
Yeah, he was on vacation. I sent you a message on Facebook.
I didn't get that. Fuck's sake.
And so he was in Dublin.
Jeez, Lee, pay attention.
I know. Fuck, man. I'm really out of the loop.
But that's it anyway. So I have to contact him again because apparently we could get accreditation for the AtlanticSC podcast to go to the Toronto International Film Festival. So that's kind of cool.
That would be awesome.
What?
Yeah.
How does that even work?
That's what you do when you talk to people, man.
Yeah, you see, now it makes sense that we have a platform for you to do things, because I didn't even know these were options. We can go to film festivals? That sounds amazing.
And so anyway, those are the kind of podcasts that I want to reach out to. I've been listening to so many things, like Nerd on Nerd, Get Real Movies, Real Spoilers, another film podcast with Colin Llewellyn, wonderful guy. And so anyway, that would lead us into our What Did You Watch This Week segment, where we're going to be talking about all the other films and not necessarily go into great detail, but give you more of a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of assessment.
Yeah, keep it fun. Keep it fun and light.
And then obviously we're going to be going to closing thoughts on the show and promoting our show next week, because all this is a giant ad for our main show.
Thus the next. It's always about the next episode, you know? So
exactly.
It's all carefully thought out.
So as we move into the news segment, Hermione, how about you? Anything to tell us about what you've seen during the week, whether it be trailers, movie news that you're interested in, something you're looking forward to?
Well, we were saying just before we started recording, I was having a bit of a whinge. I don't watch trailers because they give away all of the good bits of the film. And then when you get in there, you're anticipating what's going to happen. You've already seen everything. So as far as trailers go, I usually know when they come out, but I usually don't actually watch them. And I don't post them on my own blog, probably for the same reason, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. Do you guys watch trailers?
We used to do a segment on the show where we kind of looked at trailers and said whether we, I don't know, fucking wanted to watch the film or not afterwards. I don't know, but we decided to pull it after a while because we realized we, just as you, in the same manner, we just don't really like the idea of them. We don't like hype as a concept for films because it ultimately it warps expectations of people and then leads to people not enjoying films that in most cases are either really good or really enjoying films that aren't good at all. So getting drawn into that is a bad thing, and trailers play into that a lot. So that's why we kind of pull away from that whole side of things.
I think it's nice to go into a movie not really knowing anything about it. Like maybe you know what genre it is, or it might be a director you like or an actor or something like that, but just to go in and just let it kind of happen to you, I think is a really wonderful thing. It's much more immersive, and I think all the surprises of the films really get you.
Oh, I agree with that, and that's why we had actually stopped, like Lee said, we stopped watching them. But I mean, at the same time, whenever you go to the movie theater, they're imposed at one point.
Yeah, you do see them.
You have to sit through
We're no
them.
longer going out of our way, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
of course.
definitely not.
But I think you can still kind of, if you're interested in the kind of news aspect, I mean, there's always variety, and they're on WordPress, and so they're easy enough to follow and stuff. Or even just being like you are on social media and everything. I mean, you'll pick up what's coming out.
Yeah.
You can avoid the trailer if you want to.
I've actually been blocking people on Twitter recently because they've been
really?
spoiling stuff about the new Star Wars film coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Our social magnet, by the
funny.
way, our social media magnet, deems people unworthy to be in his Twitter feed. That's a great sign.
That's funny.
Every time, Luke's first words are, block, motherfucker. You just get the fuck out of here.
I know, I did see that going around. That is ridiculous. I mean, what the hell is wrong with people?
Angry.
Do you just really not want to watch the film at all? Do you really want to just read it or literally spoon feed you scene by scene what's going to happen? What the fuck's the point?
But some people, when they read a book, they read the ending first to see whether they'll like it.
Those people are
That's
crazy.
another thing where I'm like, what? Apparently it's really common. I was like, how can you live with yourself?
Okay, I kind of get the concept that people don't like the idea of anticipation ruining a film. They like a story, and sometimes if somebody has a twist planned for the end of it, or even a book or a narrative in any shape, finding out later that this person dies, they might actually be so genuinely upset they'll have felt like they've wasted time or something. So I get that. I feel like I understand that where people are coming from when they want films spoiled so that they can just go in and enjoy it for what it is overall. But at the same time,
it's like safety.
I don't think that should dominate the news, or I don't think that should be the de facto choice for the masses.
People that spoil films, it's like, no.
Yeah, I don't get that. That's a form of trolling I've never understood.
It's mean, isn't it? I think it's just mean.
Yeah.
It's like,
It is mean.
Unkind.
Welcome to the new AtlanticSC, where we just sit here and judge a shitload of people for how they live their lives.
We're setting good examples by being better than them.
It's like a self-help podcast. Don't do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Don't do that. You can do this. That's
Exactly.
okay.
I don't think self-help podcasts are like telling you all the time what not to do. That kind of seems awfully negative.
I don't know. What about you, Lee? Is there anything new that you wanted to talk about in terms of the site or
Big picture reviews
some
rolls
baking
on.
show that you fucking watched?
It's not the season, man. Plus, Bake Off is moving channel this season. Man, don't even get me started. I don't want to go into it. I'm a bit upset about the topic. Let's just keep it real here. Let's talk about films.
Are you talking about British Bake Off?
Yeah. There was a running thing in our
I've never
early
seen
episodes where I used to talk about the Great British Bake Off as a sort of throwaway thing that I was like, oh, by the way, I watched it this week and it's still awesome.
Yeah, and then I'd hate on Mr. Robot.
Yeah, that was our running jokes.
But you don't get it in Canada, right? So it's just like Lee talking to himself about cakes.
Yeah, that's exactly
did I
what it
miss
was.
something?
It was amazing.
Most of the time, it's Lee talking to himself anyway, so it's not really a big deal.
You just sit there all day recording yourself and playing it back.
I actually can't hear you, so I'm just judging general spaces in audio and then talking. Film stuff. Big picture reviews. We're just doing our review stuff. So I mean, if anybody's interested in seeing that, they absolutely can at bigpicturereviews.co.uk. But we're just in doing our day-to-day thing where we go and watch films and bring them up and so on. So you're not no huge news or revelations there. But in the overall movie news, the only things I could think of, I seen the trailer for Atomic Blonde.
Oh yeah,
yeah, which I thought was fun. I mean, it's trying way too hard, but that's trailers. But I don't know, a cool female John Wick spy thriller. I'm not against the concept. I like Charlie Theron. Oh my god, I can't say her name.
Charlize Theron.
Thank you.
I think she's great.
Yeah, she's a great actress, and she proved herself good in action. Mad Max is the only thing I've seen her in action. I'm sure she's done more. And plus James McAvoy. Well, Jason's turned a leaf on since Split came out, so I mean that's a good cast there. John Goodman is an exposition character, so I mean they've got all the elements to make a good film. So. I think that sounds cool. I think, the trailers is definitely trying way too hard. It's from, I seen the Red Band one, oh my god, it's got lesbian sex, that sells hard. They know their audience really well, and they know it from the time that they tried to sell Suicide Squad, because they're using the exact same fucking Queen montage thing over the top of it. So I mean, it kind of gets you down a little about where the memorable trailers are coming from, because they all feel the same. Like nothing surprises you. That's another reason why we don't watch trailers. But I don't know. I want to see through that and say that the film's going to be fun. So I'm going to keep an earnest attempt to get to see it. Other than that, there's some pictures from Thor Ragnarok with Jeff Goldblum with a blue dab of paint on his chin, and that image alone has sold me on the film.
Who doesn't love a little bit of Goldblum, really?
Goldblum, yeah, he is great. I like him. I like him in Wes Anderson pictures.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know. When I saw that picture, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Maria, my fiance, had the exact same reaction. Just like, I guess this is good.
We're going back to the 80s, man. It looks like an 80s fucking makeup.
Totally okay
something
with
like
that.
Oh man, I lived through the
80s
'80s, and there's a reason I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
He's coming back. You better prepare yourself. Shoulder pads are in, big sleeves.
Yeah, it's weird because it was spandex and fluorescent colors. I never understood that.
I feel they've just worked out what was cool about the 80s and taken out all the not so cool parts, and they've distilled it into really like sharp image and abstract things that they kind of went too far in the 90s. So I feel that this trend of making things seem more 80s, like we're seeing films with a pile of neon going on, harnessing that part of the 80s and pushing that, I think that's cool. I think that kind of will probably become our own neo 80s thing that somebody will name 10 years from now and say it was its own thing, when it really was just people trying to look like the 80s. Jason, did you have anything to share from the world of film and or film faculty?
Film faculty, no. I haven't felt the desire to write yet, because right now what I'm doing is I'm working on a script for a short film that I want to make coming this summer.
Great.
Just sitting down and writing an essay. I'm working on. I have on my schedule to rewatch Spectre, James Bond Spectre. I really love that film. I think it needs to be reassessed now that the dust has settled, and I feel like I'm going to put out something in the coming months based on a lot of research that I've done on not just the film, but what it means is James Bond as a character, myth, legend, and all that, and how these reinterpretations of old heroes that we know don't necessarily work in the world that we're living in right now, but yet we still try to remanufacture them into this modern setting, even if they are holding on to old ideals. So I'm really working on that a little bit on that side, but I'm also working on a film script right now that I've been being put pressure on because I was actually shooting 2 short films not too long ago, and one of my really good friends, a guy that I work with on short films, recently got together with a new girlfriend, and she happens to love making films. So this is a brilliant couple that have a lot of great ideas, and so they're constantly filming, and so they're calling me like every second weekend, hey, we're going to be shooting this, do you want to come over? And so essentially what it's been doing is they've been putting me behind the camera and slowly coaxing me to make something, because I haven't shot a short film in 11 years. Other than that, I've been kind of I hate writing. I hate writing so much. And so sitting down to write a script to me is torture.
Really?
And I end up hating myself after. So I kind of, if anybody, like, I have a bunch of ideas and I always try to find people to write scripts for me because then I can shit on the idea and make it my own after.
Sometimes that's easier though, like if somebody takes it off you once you've written it, because when you write something yourself, I think sometimes when you've got an actor in front of you, at least for me, I'll be like, oh my god, I wrote this. Like, if it sounds funny, I feel really embarrassed, or like...
I so understand.
Sure.
Yeah, you just feel like, oh my god, did I write that sentence? Like, yeah, I did.
It sounded good on paper. It looked good on paper. The words seemed to make
And it's
sense. And then
fine.
you hear it out loud and you're like, I'd never say that.
Yeah. But then it's fine once it becomes a film again as well. It's just that moment where an actor's looking at you going, so, what's their motivation in this scene? And you're like, I know what their motivation is, but now that you're asking me, complete blank. It's terrible.
See, that's what I like. That's what I like doing. That's where I like to get in because then I can play with the character, with that person. Which is why I like Mike Leigh films, the guy who directed Naked, and he directed also, most recently, I think there was Another Year, and he did Topsy Turvy. I like his approach to filmmaking because he starts filming with no script. What he's going to do is going to sit down with the actors and he's going to workshop until, they actually come up with the characters, what the characters have done, how they would react in situations. Yeah. And I've always admired that. But I mean, how the fuck do you go to just any old guy and say, listen?
Yeah, Hollywood loves people that just walk in and tell them, no, I don't have anything for you. But trust in my talent.
Exactly.
I'm
trust
sure
in my
if you
no
say
idea.
that stuff in the right way, though, you know what I mean?
yeah.
I think you can convince anyone of anything, really.
I mean, that's why there's that job exists, pitch people. I think Max Landis, he's one of those famous now famous pitch guys. Kind of doesn't really have ideas or anything, but walks in and just talks, and people pay him money. So I mean, that's hey, if you can get work that way, all credit to you. I mean, it's the dream talent to
But
have.
I think that's part of it. You can't just be a creative and not have a business brain. I think that's a big mistake.
That seems
I get that, yeah.
And just ask questions if you don't know. Just learn. It's nice when you have a balance in your life, I think. But if you're like wonderfully creative and if you're not good at pitching, or if you, I don't know, if you're a director but you hate actors or something, I don't know. It's like if there's those imbalances, it's like you're always working against yourself. I think it's a really good thing if you, as a creative person, if you're comfortable in a business setting as well. Because, I mean, that's what it is. Like, you can't say to somebody, oh, I want a chunk of your money to help you make money by investing in me and my product, and then be kind of like, not...
Yeah, not have a
just
plan.
Be like, I'm just really
something.
creative, it's fine, I'm creative, trust me, it's gotta...
Yeah, no, you make perfect sense.
I just remember being at film school, and I was in a room with a bunch of people that paid a lot of money to be there, and so many people by the end of the course, didn't even have a business card, or... They didn't. They had lots of ideas, and ideas are a wonderful thing, especially if you're creative and you just partner up with somebody who's kind of got the other aspects that you need. I mean, that's fine too. But
that's why I have Jason.
Exactly. It's like you find people that you
social media magnate
who deletes people off Twitter. That's what I heard.
Only for Star
That's
Wars.
the word on the street.
He gets involved and talks to people like yourself, Hermione, and then then
Well,
I get to talk to you
sometimes
by
you just-
proxy.
Sometimes I heard on the grapevine that sometimes he randomly attacks people for liking things on Twitter.
I've been hearing that more and more. I don't know what to make of these rumors.
Those attacks aren't random. Yeah, well, like I said, so I'm working on a script because I've been practicing a little bit. I've been taking out my iPhone camera. I posted a little video on Facebook the other day because, I like working on transitions and, how to do it in camera, play with lenses and whatnot. Her and her boyfriend have been putting more and more pressure on me to direct something. So I figured, I get my fingers out of my ass and finally do something.
It's so nice when you meet people and it's like they're a writer and this person's a camera person and you just all fit and it flows. It's wonderful. So you should definitely go for it.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Says me pressuring you and harassing you into doing something. I promise nobody phoned me about this.
I'll be honest. The thing is it's always as a person that wants to be a little bit more creative. Obviously, I have my little bit of my outlet with the podcast, and that's kind of fun. But at the same time, this is just shielding me. I keep getting excuses because, putting yourself out there in terms of like the creative process. I mean, all three of us have probably watched many, many short films where you're like, Jesus Christ, someone stabbed me in the eyes right now. I can't watch this shit,
No comment.
It's the best compliment I can give. But, yeah, right now I'm just trying to get back into the groove of things because, I think it would be kind of fun to just break out the cameras and, just get something going. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Moving on. I went to see Kong Skull Island, obviously, but and they were showing the IMAX showings the first 5 minutes of Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. And wow. Yeah, I was with my girlfriend and the kids, and the kids didn't know what the fuck was going on, which was funny. But Leslie and I were completely shocked at how immense this spectacle is going to be.
Wow.
And this was impressive. You were in the goddamn movie. I love the fact that he's shooting on IMAX. It opens up kind of like, his latest films, more in terms of The Dark Knight or even The Dark Knight Rises, where you have this prologue before something starts. And it's really funny because you have these two guys that are trying to bring a wounded soldier. They're carrying him on a gurney, and they have to cross this bridge, but there just so happens to be a bomb must have broken the bridge in half, and there's this plank that they have to get across, which I thought was going to be an interesting visual metaphor for how the entire film is going to play out, because if you know anything about the war at Dunkirk, what happened is essentially the British troops and the French troops aligning in order to get safe passage across this very narrow canal in order to escape from the Nazis. And so I thought that it was very interesting for him to take that little shot, put it in the film. Anyway, so Jesus Christ, man, there was a dogfight scene in the prologue. Tom Hardy's was in it, shooting down a plane. It was so cool, man. I don't usually get so hyped up for movies, but I'm a real big Christopher Nolan fan. I don't understand why people just hate
He's
on
really
him
good.
the way that they do, because he delivers, man.
Yeah, exactly. He delivers 100%.
He delivers the spectacle. Every time I watch one of his movies, I am glued to my seat, and I feel ashamed if I have to blink. And so, I was like, I missed a frame. Fuck. I'm really glad that this is coming out this year. Anyway, I need myself a Nolan film.
Yeah.
So I want to go to our segment, essentially, which is film quotes read by tweens.
Attention, whoever you are. This channel is reserved for emergency calls only. No fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
I hope you guys enjoyed my kids swearing, because they did immensely. Always. Yeah, it's like it was Christmas to them when I handed them the sheet of paper, and then they looked at it and they were like, "We can say this?" I was like, "Yes." Because your mother's not around and neither is Nanny. So that's great.
I'm so excited for more. I don't know. It's just cute. It's fun. That's
definitely cute.
Part of the reason why I'm starting this different spin-off show is just to have fun, and that to me is exactly the reason why this has to exist.
Yeah, I built a whole show around getting my kids to swear.
You really did.
But anyway, we'll be back right after this with What Did You Watch This Week? Stay tuned.
Hi everyone, this is Tim Costa.
I'm Hermano da Silva.
And this is Walter Vinci.
And together we are the First Time Watchers podcast.
Each week we choose a movie to review that none of us has seen.
Watch it together.
And then discuss.
These movies could be new.
Or old.
Or on our list of shame.
You can find us on iTunes by searching for the First Time Watchers podcast.
As well as on Stitcher.
And we love interacting with our listeners, so if you have any suggestions, send us a tweet.
An email.
Or post to our Facebook page.
We'd love to hear from you.
That's right. I mean, it's all about interaction.
And talk about what we love. Movies.
And you don't have to worry about us going on and on about this and that and the other. And let's talk about this minutiae here.
Shut up.
And I wonder who the gaffe can
God damn it, shut up!
I think that's enough, Walter.
Oh my God.
Go by during the credits.
City of stars, are you shining just for me? If you know that song, you know that's from La La Land, and that is one of the movies we will be covering on the Get Real Movies podcast. You guys can check us out on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, and if you want some more great singing, tune in to Mason and I, the two youngest podcasters in the movie podcasting world. Thanks a lot.
So welcome back. Let's get into this. What did you watch this week? And I wanted to swing this over to Hermione to get her to talk a little bit about what she watched in the week. So Miss Hermione, tell us, what did you watch this week?
I watched a couple of older films and a couple of new ones. I watched In a Lonely Place, which is from about 1950, I think, with Humphrey Bogart. And It's a black and white kind of a film noir film where he may be the killer or maybe he isn't, and you don't find out until the end scene. It's really wonderful. Love it. I watched Manchester by Sea, which we were probably going to talk about in a little bit. I watched The Love Witch, which is kind of 1960s style comedy horror, which is very stylized.
That's new, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it featured over here at Fright Fest. It opened there, but I think it's out in cinemas here in the UK now, I think this week. Or I could be wrong about that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's one of those films where you're either going to watch it and be like, I don't get this. Or you're going to watch it and be like, this is amazing. It's one of those kind of films.
It's kind of like the Neon Demon.
Maybe. Yeah, I wanted to share Uncertain with you guys, which I think is a film that's a little bit different. It's a documentary. I'm not normally a huge documentary fan. Right. I don't know why. I think I just like the cinematic kind of aspect of films maybe a bit more, so I don't always enjoy. Yeah, I think as well, some documentaries preach at you a little bit. It can be a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah, so Uncertain is a little town. It's tiny. It's about I think about 94 people live there, and it's on the border of Texas and Louisiana. And pretty much the only way you can find it is if you get lost. It's so small, it's not even on a lot of maps. So it's just kind of a look at that town and 3 people that live there. But it's quite a beautiful film. The people that live there are quite some of them are fleeing from one state into another, and they kind of hide out there. Other people are born there and there's not really that much there for them, so there's a bit of alcoholism,
small town blues.
Yeah, exactly. There's one guy in the film that's moved there, and he's an ex-drug addict, so he goes there to recover and kind of get away from his old friends that could kind of draw him back into his old way of life. And he just gets obsessed with the wild hog population and just goes out and watches them and hunts them. And it's kind of one of those films where it's interesting, unusual people, and they're real people, so you kind of get really drawn into their lives. So it's really well done, but it's also it's kind of on a lake, and it looks a bit like I don't know my American kind of geography super well, but it's kind of like bayou-esque.
Sure.
I'm making up words now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful. Normally I'm not a huge person that's oh, okay, realism, not really that interested, but I really liked this. It kind of had this unusual quality to the film. I just fell in love with these people that I've probably never come across anyone like them.
So what was the ambition? What was the kind of point behind it? What were they trying to do with that? Were they just trying to capture a day in the life of a bunch of town folk who nobody really talks about?
So I think it was just these places kind of exist. These places that are not on a map, and these people exist that are eccentric and lovable, and I think the film makes them very lovable. I think maybe if you met someone who is an ex-drug addict who hunted hogs, you might be like, oh, okay, maybe I won't talk to you or something. I don't know. You might have an attitude about that. But in the film, they're really sympathetic, and it almost feels like there's a slight sort of fairy tale quality to the whole thing, I think, in a way.
That's what it sounded like to me, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's just what I got from it, because I quite like that kind of thing. Maybe that's what kind of got me, but...
It feels like a rags to riches story.
Yeah.
The idea of literal rags, and then the riches is where your environment is, where you lay your head.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But yeah, if you like documentaries, definitely. It's called Uncertain, and I think it was made in about 2011, and it's won a couple of awards, possibly at Sundance.
Oh, okay.
But it came out... it was released in cinemas this year, at least in the UK. It's just come out. So.
Oh, okay. It was actually filmed in 2011. I got you.
Yeah. Sorry, filmed in 2011. So it's a new one that's out there. I don't know what kind of release it will get. Yeah.
It's a documentary, so it's limited as shit.
Yeah, I suppose you're probably right. But it may do well on Netflix or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I get most of my documentaries. All right, so In a Lonely Place with Humphrey Bogart. Did you write a review for that one on Wildfire?
It's not out yet, but I have written one. Yeah.
Cool.
So that will be will be on there.
All right, Manchester by the Sea. Lee and I'll speak for myself. I really liked that film. Lee, I think it wasn't actually in your top 20 of last year.
I haven't even seen it. I only seen it this year. It only came out in the UK this year, so it's not in any top anything at the moment. But I absolutely adored it. Even beyond like Oscar hype doesn't throw me or sway me in much direction anyway. But I genuinely, had this come out any time of the year, I would have sung its praises. I absolutely loved it.
Right, and off the air, you said that you based on the fact that you said you probably felt opposite.
I didn't hate it. I just didn't really. I guess I don't know. I don't really know why, but I just kind of felt. How much can I say without spoiling the film? I don't want to say something.
If we just say spoiler alert, then we don't give a shit.
Right? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so
this is part of what we do is spoilers. We don't care.
So this guy is he drinks a lot. He does drugs, and he has people over at his house at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning while his wife and small children are trying to sleep. And then he manages to leave the house with a fire going, and it burns down and kills his children. And I'm supposed to care what happens to this guy.
Yeah, but it was an accident, wasn't it?
That doesn't matter. I would never leave a fire going in my house.
But he didn't mean to.
Unless I'm right there. Yeah, but he didn't mean to because he was drunk and he was high. Is that an excuse?
I get that. No, of course.
Do you get what I mean? It's like, I don't know, maybe, I don't have kids. I can't say like what I would do or something like that because I don't have that. But I mean, I wouldn't light a fire in my house with my boyfriend sleeping and leave the house. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I don't know, because in Australia, I guess, fires are a big problem. So maybe I was kind of wondering after I saw it, maybe that's why my perspective is so different. Because I would just never leave a fire.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff burns, basically. You know what I mean? And it burns easily and it burns fast. And I didn't have that sympathy for somebody who was so irresponsible. But also, I kind of felt like at the start of the film, there's a couple of scenes where he's with his girlfriend or his wife. I think it's his wife, isn't it? And she's sick in bed. She's really sick. And she's kind of telling him gently to kind of leave her alone. She's trying to recover, and he's being really selfish. And he says to her that he wishes he didn't have kids and that he could just be like home by himself and watch the game. And you can tell he's joking. I'm not saying he wasn't joking, but I was kind of
I think you're right. I mean, I think
he's not a sympathetic character at all, I don't think. And then his nephew is like cheating on
an asshole.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, so the people that I really like are not really in the film. His brother, who dies and is the reason that he has to sort of try and take care of his nephew, he's interesting, but he seems like a really great guy or something, but we don't really get to know him. And the wife, who lost 2 children in the fire as well as him, we don't really get to know her either, and she's obviously really struggling, as you kind of see in the course of the film. She's sort of trying to recover. They're interesting characters. I think a lot of the side characters are interesting, but I just felt really weird when the nephew at one point says to his uncle, which is Casey Affleck, the main character, he sort of says to him like, oh, I really want to, basically I want to sleep with this girl. Can you hit on her mom and, and like lead her on? Yeah, so I can have sex with this girl who's not my girlfriend. Great job too. And I was like, that's kind of disturbing, I think. How do you have sympathy for people that?
Yeah,
I'll talk about it coming from a father's perspective.
Yeah,
like for me, I can understand a little bit how that guy would have reacted. Because the amount of guilt and stupidity you feel after something like that, he says it in the film that he thought that he had put that filter or that grill, I don't know exactly how a fireplace works, but there is a thing that you have to put in front of the log so that they won't fall out, or any of the little
yeah, it's like a fire guard, but you still, even with a fire guard up, you wouldn't leave the house with a fire burning. It's the same as leaving if you were cooking something on the stove and you just left the stove running all day. It's exactly the same. You just wouldn't. Oh, no. What if your little kid like wandered downstairs? And I mean, clothes can be really flammable. They can go like your entire child. I don't
think it's arguing for this character to be 1-to-1 with like a sensible
but it's
person, you know? Like, I think
the
I
fire
get what you
safety
mean.
here is, like, stressing
you
me
can't
out.
relate to somebody this
to me-
stupid, but...
But I mean, the punishment that he gets is worse than the crime he committed, in my opinion. And I think that, to have to live through that for his entire life is much more traumatic. I mean, he understands that what he did was stupid. He understands that he was drunk and it was stupid. He understands he was high and he was stupid. He obviously had a lesson to learn, and that's why when she goes downstairs and yells at him, "Hey, I have my kids are sleeping upstairs. Can you guys all fuck off?"
Yeah, then,
and then
he makes a
they
mockery
eventually
of
leave,
her.
but she had to warn them twice.
Yeah, but he's
but,
saying he's on their side, not hers. It's really weird. It's like, I don't know.
Well, of course, but I mean, sometimes you need that slap in the face in order to change. And obviously this was more than a slap in the face.
Yeah, I mean, he can't, he just wants out.
Do you think that's kind of the
Exactly,
point
I mean-
of the film, though? Is like that maybe... Yeah, I mean, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Is that kind of what you feel?
Yeah, it's a little bit what I'm trying to get at.
It's kind of
is
just,
that-
it's like, what scale does this fall under? This guy is, yes, maybe going through a midlife crisis, and yes, an asshole, but, he does a stupid thing that, that is accidental, but it is his fault, and he knows that, and the punishment, if you want to even see it as a punishment, it's a thing that happens, but, like, to say it's a punishment is to be so selfish, the fact that there aren't other people affected by this, and even his wife is really important to the fallout of it all. That where does this fall in our scheme of trying to understand karma or how the universe works? How do we feel for a person? Yeah, I get that. I mean,
Like,
yes, okay.
If you had Casey Affleck and he was kind of a foolish guy but really nice, like if you felt like he really loved his wife and they had this amazing relationship, and that he was a really good dad and got drunk one night because whatever people do is fine, he's not doing anything wrong, but he isn't that guy. So
Yeah, I just think that might be a little
guess I just feel
unbelievable,
like, you know what, there's enough.
You know what I think this is cool? The cool thing is right now in this conversation is that we have different cultural perspectives coming into this.
It's true.
I think that's kind of a key thing.
And it's really cool.
I remember I watched this film ages ago, and it was set in Australia, but it was I think it was a British director. It was a British co-production. And towards the start of the film, the guy in the film says, I can't swim. And immediately I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And my friend, I've been living in London for ages. My friend was like, why? And I'm like, learning how to swim is compulsory in Australia. Like, it's compulsory. For the rest of the film, I was just like,
you're right.
I was just like, that wouldn't happen. There's no way you wouldn't know how to swim. Like, it's compulsory. So yeah, it is really interesting how
that affects your sort of
your life
take on
experiences
films.
and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fine way of seeing Manchester by the Sea. That's
definitely.
fascinating. That's the takeaway. I totally get it. I didn't see it quite that way. I don't know. I think there's something to gain from seeing even assholes do wrong things, because it teaches good people not to make those mistakes. Do you think?
There's
always value.
I
in
think it
whatever
actually
you're seeing.
teaches people that it's okay to be an asshole.
No, I don't think.
That's
I don't
kind of
think
what I get from
like,
it.
I think of anything. Nobody wants to be Casey Affleck in this film ever. So I mean, that's good. He doesn't fix anything, and by the end, he has no resolution. He's still
It is kind of
suicidal.
weird,
I mean,
isn't it?
nobody's gonna want to be that character.
But it's interesting in that there isn't really a resolution, because I don't think there can be a resolution.
Yeah, but isn't that the point?
And I think I
find
think
that
that's a
fascinating.
good thing in that film. It's there's so much in that film that, as much as I guess I have an issue with the main premise, of why do we care about what happens to this guy? Like, for me. But it's beautifully shot. The performances are amazing. I felt that it was a little bit long, but I tend to feel like a lot of films are a little bit long, which sounds weird maybe coming from a film critic. But I think there's so many great things about this film. I think it's maybe like, if you know what it's about and you're comfortable with that or something, go see it. But for me, that main thing of like, I just have to watch somebody who's not a great person be not a great person. Like, I could just go outside and do that. Pay for it. You know what I mean? I could go and sit in Starbucks and sit next to somebody and listen to somebody feel sorry for themselves and not learn anything. But
It's incredible how much
more
of a
cynical
fit
than we are.
you
Jesus,
are
is
for
awesome.
this show, Hermione. Jesus Christ.
Exactly. Hermione, we're going to have you on every week
Jesus
from now on.
Christ. We thought we were assholes.
She just politely called Hermione an asshole. That's
I
not
like how
nice.
you were like, he politely called her one.
She was like, where does Casey Affleck get off being an asshole in his movie? I'm the asshole. I get to choose.
I don't go to Starbucks and like tell her like, oh, I'm surrounded by. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't like actively think it. You know. I certainly wouldn't announce it.
Well, I'm a cynical person.
All right, so that's pretty dark take on Manchester by the Sea, but I mean,
It's a
I
dark
think I understand
film,
where
okay?
she's coming from. Like, to me, it was a movie about coping, and so I can understand how she feels, though. I mean, given the context, I mean, this is where cultural context will play heavily into how we see films. But anyway, I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to watch it next time and keep that in mind the entire time. Why do I care about an idiot like this? All right, so what about you, sir? Let's move on to you.
Yeah.
What did you watch this week?
Like I watched a couple of things because I was on In Session Film this week, so I had to watch Rome Open City. It's a 19
Oh, the Rossellini film.
yeah,
Yeah,
1944 neo-realism film. Never watched a neo-realistic film in my life.
Jesus, those things are fucking long,
Yeah.
man. They're painful to watch.
I didn't find it that painful or long, but I did. It was a pretty bleak experience. I genuinely loved it, but you have to be in a particular mood to punish yourself that way. So I mean,
I mean, I've tried to watch a couple of his movies, and it's like watching paint dry. It's just like, what the fuck, man? Just move on.
Cool. I also watched In the Heat of the Night for the first time.
Great
Oh,
film.
Sydney. Very good.
Yeah, Sidney Poitier, best picture of its day. I don't remember the year. Anyway,
Isn't it 57 or something? Like that? 56,
it's the 70s, right?
No.
It is. It definitely is. Definitely the 70s.
Oh, what the fuck? Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to go check that out right now, because
Definitely.
that feels a lot older.
I thought it was the 60s as well. Why did you think that?
Maybe late 60s, but it's not the 50s.
67, there you go.
There, well, Hermione got it.
What? Did I win a prize?
You get to be on the show again! Yep, let that sink in. Yeah, so it's an absolutely fantastic film. It is a pretty straightforward kind of detective film, but the actual the racial undertones, well, I would say overtones, they're pretty in your face. It actually informs the narrative and matters and is interesting to watch, and I would kind of hesitantly say fun to watch, because you see this guy just get more bitter and angry and fucking lose his shit with this backwards jerk Waterberg. It's great, but the story also tells itself. It keeps itself going narratively. It's all really fun. Definitely anybody who hasn't seen it, watch it. Super, it deserves all the praise it gets.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And the last the film I seen most recently was Trespass Against Us. It's in cinemas right now. Michael Fassbender and Brendan Gleeson are a son-father traveler family in England, and it's about how they go about their daily lives. Michael Fassbender wants to move on with his life, try to find a new place for him to get his family out of this sort of tight circle. Brendan Gleeson, he basically dictates everybody's lives there, and he's very aggressive, almost kind of to the extent of leading a cult. He gets them into, crime-related scenarios, and it's about the one guy's struggle to get out of that and try to save his family for it. To be fair, I didn't really particularly love the film. I thought the performances were really good. And I mean, you've seen this film before, in some shape or form. You've seen the son breaks away from the father film somewhere in your life, and it's fine. It is absolutely watchable, but I wouldn't say it has any particular merits. Its ending is a bit meh. Its characterization is also a bit dodgy, and I don't know. I watched it. I thought it was fine at the time, but I didn't care too strongly to say I would ever watch it again or recommend it to somebody to see outside of Netflix or anything like that. So, I mean, that is literally what I've seen this week, other than Kong and Godzilla, which we're going to talk about in a future episode. So, I'm going to keep those and move along and ask Jason, what did you see?
Well, as I was saying earlier, I brought my kids to watch Logan, so I saw Logan twice. And you know what? going back to our episode on Logan, like you said that a lot of the gripes or the qualms that we had with the film would stick, and they're actually more apparent on second viewing.
Yeah! I know I shouldn't be happy that my criticism comes true when it's negative, but, you know, I want people to take what I say and actually see that.
Oh, well, that's it. I mean, we both had, you know, similar... Well, I won't call them problems, but we noticed, we nitpicked a little bit, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff that we were criticizing was, you know, we'll call it flat out lack of originality.
Sure.
And although, I mean, it's a very fine film, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and start banging, you know, pots and pans like this is a revelation for the.
Is that what you do when you get a revelation? Get the pots and pans out.
The pots and pans.
What I did for Interstellar. Exactly. I put a pot on my head and start banging.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Just run around.
That may have affected your understanding of the film there. I love this movie, and I'm like, I couldn't hear it.
Oh no, but that's it. You know, with Logan, it was cool because I brought the kids, and it was really, really funny because I had one of my daughters, the 9-year-old Allie. This was funny because I got a weird frown from the person at the ticket booth. I was taking the kids to see Logan, and the guy just kind of looked at me like in a very judgmental way, and I was like, that's exactly why I'm here today. It was so cool. And so I brought the kids in, got them their popcorn, I sat them down, and my eldest daughter, Mia, is a little bit more affected by violence. As much as she wants to watch Prometheus, I think it only gives her an excuse to wake up at night and come disturb my sleep. So I've kind of put that on hold right now.
That's kind of cute.
And so when we sat them down for Logan, I explained to my eldest daughter, Mia, I said to her, listen, this one's extremely violent. The opening sequence is a guy that gets a leg chopped off and then someone else gets stabbed through the face. And she was like, what? And I was like, it's Wolverine, baby. He doesn't tickle with his claws. You know?
Not anymore.
And so...
I just got a visual of
That's
that.
what he used to do.
I'm like, oh. Would I like to be tickled by Wolverine? And then I was like, no, you're right. No, it's fine.
Well, that's one of the scenes in X-Men 2 that I've always liked is when he throws the claws out and then the cats start licking the claws.
Yeah.
I was like, but then when he retracts them, you hear the little meow. I thought that was a really good touch in sound editing. Like the cat. But anyway, so my youngest daughter really likes violent. I can get her to watch. She's seen Terminator 2 and she's asked me to watch it 3 times since. She's like, I can't believe just how intense that movie is, and she loves it.
That was a great
And
film.
so as I was explaining to my eldest daughter that it was extremely violent, and she says to me out loud, my youngest daughter, Allie, she says to me, that's okay, Dad. I really like violence. Shit, that was funny, but the funniest part was the guy sitting in the row behind us who just burst out laughing. You know, it was really, really a cute moment, and I basically just told her, I love you very much, and that's why I brought you to see the film. And anyway, so the guy gave me a thumbs up of approval, which was kind of cool. It was like, that's good daddying, apparently. So that was cool. I watched Bad Moms, which...
that about sums it
I
up.
think that sums it up.
And so that's it. So Bad Moms. I also watched Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. That was pretty cool. I really liked it, so I'll recommend that too. And I watched a documentary called Pantani, The Accidental Death of a Cyclist. And it's actually one of the best documentaries I've ever watched. A poor guy called Marco Pantani who was cycling in the early 80s and died of a drug overdose at the age of 34.
Jeez.
Cocaine, because he was... basically the story of how he didn't want to do performance-enhancing drugs, but if he wanted to remain on the Italian team doing the Tour de France and stuff like that, he was probably coerced into doing that, and that kind of ruined his career. He felt a lot of shame, and as a result, killed himself.
Wow.
Because people were calling him a drug addict. And so his philosophy turned into, you want to see what a real drug addict is? Here it is. And he ended up dying alone in a hotel room after being praised as this god of cycling. And so it was a very, very sad story, but at the same time, a very important one. I really loved that documentary. So I can't recommend it enough. My father's actually watching it right now because he was a hardcore cyclist for a long time, and he still bicycles quite a bit. But yeah, Pantani, The Accidental Death of a Cyclist. If you guys can get to that, that would be great.
Amazing. So, I mean, sounds like the kind of thing, just like Hermione's documentary, sounds like the kind of the hard-hitting reality that I'm not prepared for.
Yeah, cool. All right, so I guess that pretty much rounds it out. We're going to piece this together and try to make a show out of it, so hopefully a couple of bumps along here. So anyway, Hermione, how about you tell us where we can reach you? Twitter, Facebook,
you can,
or the blog?
Find my blog at wildfiremotionpictures.com. I am on Twitter as Hermione F. Writes, if you want to stop by there, or on Instagram as Hermione Flavia, at Hermione Flavia. That's me.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. And please go follow Hermione,
Yeah, come follow me.
especially the Instagram. She's always got wonderful pictures up there of her, and also of the stuff that she's doing for the other blog that you have, which is the Craven Wild, if I'm not mistaken.
Cravenwild.com. It's kind of like my lifestyle, I guess. Things I like that are not movies.
There you go. Who said people can't do two things at the same time? Hermione does it well. And so that's it. So, and occasionally, if ever you want to send her, if you follow her on Twitter, she might butt into one of your conversations, and it might turn into a relationship. So that's kind of cool.
I don't know if that was supposed to be as open-ended as you made it sound.
Yeah, I think that sounded a little bit, maybe not what you were intending there.
Get your fucking heads out of your asses. I just said it might turn into a talking
a
relationship.
beautiful
There you
friendship,
go.
right? Like at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
There you go.
Casablanca.
Beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
There you go.
As for my Twitter, if you do follow me, there is always the potential for an open relationship. My website's bigpicturereviews.co.uk. Me and a number of other guys, unprofessional reviews for unprofessionals, super fun. Check it out. And on Twitter, I am at BigPicReviews, and so you can say hi to me and tell me off about my standard views from Manchester by the Sea. But yeah, that's me.
Very cool. Excellent. And I was Jason Michael. Thank you very much. You guys can find me on Twitter. You can also check out my website if ever you want to. There's not much there right now. There's a lot of stuff, but I mean, it's old, so you're not going to give a shit. So I want you guys to actually go write comments on SoundCloud. I want to give a shout out to Gavin at Mini Media Reviews, who's been leaving reviews on SoundCloud, which I loved. Colin Llewellyn called me dumb 2 weeks ago, so that doesn't really matter. No, it was funny. It was a really, really funny thing.
Amazing comment.
And so, so that about rounds out the show for this week for Atlantic Screen Connection, the next segment. So hopefully this does what it has to do, and we'll catch you guys with a new show next week. Thank you very much for being there.
Thanks to Hermione for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks to Hermione, obviously. But this is so cool. We're going to have her on like once every 2 or 3 weeks.
That would be awesome. You're way too good a fit for this show. It's unreasonable.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.